Eretz Yisrael is, we think of as a geography, and B'chol Hagoyim, the various nations, as a geographical location. I think Moses is challenging us. Of course, this is the story of the Jewish people that cross over to the land of Israel. But Goyim, in this context, is, well, frankly, Goyish, not Jewish.
It's everybody else.
That I have pushed you out there, those others, if you feel alienated. Okay? So alien is a geographic term, but alienated is a spiritual context. And here is where I think the sophistication of the Torah we should not underestimate. You must take the challenge and the blessing in this time of Teshuva, whatever has befallen you, all of this blessing and curse, and put it together and turn back to your own heart and mind amidst all of the estrangement and alienation that you have been pushed towards there. There is a reason each of us find our place estranged in this moment before Rosh Hashanah. And there's an opportunity for us to take that to heart, and that is the whole mitzvah. That's the whole commandment. V'shavta ad Adonai Elohecha, and it says, and return to your God. Any Hebrew speakers? I know I have Hebrew speakers. V'shavta ad Adonai. What is ad? El is toward. Ad ko, until the point. Ad. Beautiful statement, radical statement. In Rosh Hashanah we pray, the gates are opening, this is when the heavens rip open, 100 blasts of the shofar actually give us this cosmic unity between heaven and earth. In this moment, that is not what Moses is saying. I'm trying to give a radical read here. You do the best you can, take the stuff you feel forced in estrangement there, and you do the best that you possibly can to return up to the point of Lord your God, V'shamata bekolo, and hear this voice, K'chol asher anochi, as I have commanded you today, you and your children, with all your heart and soul. Get to the doorpost. Get to the gate. Just get to the gate, and God will take the rest. This is a powerful moment of spiritual approach. If you don't feel like you've gotten there, that's exactly where you need to be moving towards. Just to that point, ad Adonai. I don't know, last year, anybody with me at High Holidays last year? I talked about atheism. I talked about my challenges with God. And I've had a bit of a religious reawakening over the last year. Thank you very much, community. I've been inspired by all of you. And Moses inspires me here. Just get to the gate. Just get up in the morning and get to the bus stop.
Just do it.
Up to. Just get up to that point. Ad Adonai Elohecha. And I think that one letter, because if I'm missing the kismet, okay, so I sit and I meditate and I reflect, I got to that point, I may not see it. I mean, putting it in a negative context, I just read this, it's like when the water's slowly increasing, you don't know when you're boiling in the water, but it just feels the same. In a positive way, if you continue the approach, Ad Adonai Elohecha, and this estrangement takes your turning, V'shavta v'shuva elecha. Now look at this verse 3. I want to read it in first. I'm on verse 3. V'shav Adonai Elohecha et shvuatcha, and God will return to your turning. So, I don't know, I'm not a big tennis fan, but I just watch Federer. Just return. I think God is the great Rogerian. Tell me more about that. It is not a grand gesture of, a thunderclap. Gadol yitaka b'shofar. It's a huge blast of the shofar, but kol demama. It's still silence that returns. When you turn, it will be returned. V'shav v'kibetzcha michol amim asher hafatzchicha. No. Hefitzecha Adonai Elohecha. You want to return to God? You begin to return, God will return. You want to be picked up amongst all the other outer regions? You make one slight gesture turn, you will be gathered from all of these other people. You feel lost in the world? Find your community, and your community will find you. Moses, what a speech.
That's a very radical idea. In a sense, it's the whole idea that return is possible and that it's not like the myth of Sisyphus,
yes,
where everything has no purpose, or the Chinese idea that there's just cycles in life. Here they're really, that is such an expression of hope.
Absolutely. And yet, it's a tempered hope. You begin this action and you will begin to feel unattempted change. The promised land is not such a... We got it a few chapters ago. You'll be blessed in the city, you'll be blessed in the country. This is the blessing of actually the journey of doing it. And it is a very hopeful one. But it also speaks to the alienation that I think the Israelites, the children, feel. And Moses feels. Let's just take his context. He's leaving his children off. Leave them at the gate. He's literally taking them to the gate. And so here, if you make that turn, it will be reflexive. It will come back to you. And it is. It's a radical thing.
That is the challenge of atheism. You were talking about the challenge of atheism.
Yes.
That is the challenge, that it doesn't matter, that there's nothing out there. That no matter what you do, there's no God to meet. I
would refer you to John Gray's 7 types of atheism, and that is one type is a nihilism, okay. But there are many others, and what this is that you're in communication with someone you are not necessarily communicating with. Okay? You're in a conversation, and I am with my ancestors almost every day, and my loves that are no longer on this earth. I'm still having that conversation, but I'm not having a conversation. And yet, I think that's the conversation. And Moses is realizing I'm still talking to Moses. We're still arguing or debating or discussing, turning and returning. Yeah.
I'm also impressed by the realistic approach to promise. Promises are in every holy book, in every religion. Whereas this also tells us you'll be estranged again, you'll be alienated again, but you'll be rewarded too. So it's very realistic to me. It's unlike other.
It's grounded. It is grounded, and I'm trying to think of other. I want to disprove, this, the transcendentalist, for example, a very grounded spirituality, perhaps. The irony of the transcendentalist being grounded, and yet this Torah and Moses. And it could be from his very defeat. He had this intimate experience with God, and he's not saying that someone else will have it. And in fact, the rabbis and the prophets, after Malachi, after the last prophet, there is no more, there will not be a new Moses that comes. This is the whole Torah, and we've got to work with it what we have. This is what we've been given. I heard this, I was a chaplain, and the Buddhist chaplain would say, all of suffering is between what you have and what you think you should have. That's suffering. Pain is tolerable. But when you think... Or as my son Nathan said, I think I told you this, in 4th grade, the principal said, you could be anything you want to be. And he came home and he said, the principal lied to me today. I said, what do you mean? He said, you could be anything you want to be. He says, I could want to be a frog. I'm not going to be a frog. So it is real. It is grounded. And I think, so let's take another level here, though. When you send your child off, when you send your children off to this new land, are you somewhat guarded in your pronouncements of success because you're worried about them? And so you're trying to keep them grounded and rooted, and he is going to a different place at the end of his life. He dies in the next chapter, literally. And perhaps he's tempering his own. I'm trying to give it a different egg. I love this rooted, grounded, almost pragmatic, and yet inspirational. That a self-transformation really brings you to the door of God. Or he maybe is cynical. Cynical is the wrong word. He's guarded in it because he can't give those promises because he's seen the children, he knows what they do, that the bracha and the klala is all wrapped into one.
I was just thinking it may also be a life lesson based on a life led. Mm-hmm. He's been there with the golden calf. He's been there with the spies. He's been there and he saw God return. It's the other half. You go as far as you can. It's God's job to be there. You can only go as far as you can go.
And his life lesson also that former, there's blessing and there's curse, choose blessing, and the good ones will be rewarded and the bad ones won't be rewarded. Okay, now I've got 2 kids, and one did great and the other is on the edge. I'm still talking to you. I'm still talking to both children, and I'm in a different part of my journey, because let's look at line 4. Im yichyeh nidachacha b'ktzei hashamayim. And adoche is you're pushed out. You're, we used to call it, have you ever heard of the Heisman? Getting the Heisman? You can't see this on the podcast, but I'm giving the Heisman trophy. You're pushing out. You're pushed out. Outcast. If you're pushed out, b'ktzei hashamayim, at the edge of the heavens. Ends of the world, it says, b'ktzei hashamayim, just at the fringe of society or fringe of heaven. Misham yikabetzecha, from the very fringes I will gather you. This is very different than choose right or wrong. The good ones will win, and the bad ones I will swallow. I'm going to go to the furthest edges of the earth. And if you reach out, and this is what I say to you in this moment of tshuva, don't only look at, okay, maybe I'll do a little of this, a little of that. Take what is furthest from you. Like, for a rabbi, to have a deep faith in God that could communicate with me on a daily basis. I know that's ironic, but this is what I've really been working on all year. That I can have a constant flow of... That was the furthest thing from my mind, because I guess in my misreading of Maimonides was, you can't talk to God like that. God doesn't talk to you. Okay. This was the furthest thing. This is Miktzeh Hashamayim. This is like the most fringe thing that I could do, which is what I could do so naturally was, when I was a child, walk in nature and be like, so God, how are you today? I'm good. Childlike. And yet, Misham yikachechecha, I will take you from the fringes. I won't take you from the center. So this is tshuva. I think this is a myth of tshuva, which is, we think, okay, I know what is right and good. I know that I'm going to do, okay, no more 3 cups of coffee in the morning. I'm going to hot water. No more sugar. Okay, that cookie, half a cookie, 1 cookie, no cookies. You know, whatever it may be. But instead, take yourself from wherever that furthest place that you are, from there, you're going to get the greatest return. What do they call that? The slingshot? You actually need to go from the farthest place from where you are. Now that's scary, because that takes us from where we are the most alienated and estranged from ourselves and from the divine, and from that place we will be taken.
Micah?
Yes?
I think one of the most dangerous things that we can do, listening to this, accepting that things don't always go right and that you have to work your way back, is teach our children that they're always right, that they always did a good job, that they always will win, they always get a trophy. I think that's a terrible thing to teach a child. Let them learn to accept failure as well and reach beyond that for something more.
I'll take it a step further. That's the trophy.
Yes, to reach beyond and come back.
As Wendy Mogul would say, that's the blessing in the skin knee. You know, you failed at the test and you survived through, and yes, you know, yes. Audrey.
I was just thinking how the best way to teach, in my opinion, about accepting failure as well as victory, is we as parents, adults, we experience failure as well as victory in our lives, and I think our children should observe how we handle it. I know I have handled failure and victory, but certainly failure is a definite option in my life sometimes, and I specifically handled it so that my son could see how I was doing it, so when he encountered a big failure, he was able to, you know, just see it as an obstacle, a temporary one, and he went over. I'm not saying anything terribly exciting and all, but
No, you're
really,
repeating Moses.
yeah, but it really, I was happy that I had the failure and that I showed that I could then proceed and then so that's my
Kol
The failure teaches
hedvarim,
you more.
kol hedvarim ha'ele, kol, the whole of this Torah, its blessings and challenges.
I would just also want to counter that. You know, you encounter failure, but God and the story and this roadmap suggests that you get up and do something else, and you can do that.
Yeah.
And that's the true lesson. For me, the failure, that the speech is talking about, wait a minute, I'm still here, even though you're all the way over there, you could get up again and begin the journey. So,
Yeah.
very inspirational.
So maybe, I don't understand counter that. Yeah, my son saw me get up
Yeah.
by my nails, you know, and that was a lesson. You know.
Amen.
When he talks about outcasts,
Yes.
is he also talking about those who were excommunicated, for example?
So excommunication is difficult because we don't really have. I mean, you mean killed?
Outcasts. Like Spinoza was excommunicated. He was an outcast from the...
Oh, so let us say Spinoza, very interesting, was excommunicated by the
community.
by the Sephardic temple in Amsterdam, who officially said, Baruch Spinoza, you are not. He was welcomed by his community of scholars, and I would argue many secular Jews. I've actually did this 2 years ago. I get a excommunication. I recommunicated Baruch Spinoza, and we did a conference, and we had Jewish scholars reading that God is everywhere. Aware, like when Spinoza says, so yes, yes.
Are we talking about outcasts by the society? If that is the case,
Yes.
Spinoza is still God's.
And ours. And ours. But what I won't do is say, Baruch Spinoza, this is also what Moses is saying, so I want to be tempered here. Baruch Spinoza is our next Moses. No longer do we have the Torah. No longer do we have prophets. God is in nature, capital N, and the rest of this is Narishkeit. That's Shabbatai Tzvi. That's some of our greatest apostates. Can apostates, depending on who excommunicated them, we should really look into this. The tragedy of the excommunication, and we know this, when the kid gets kicked out of Hebrew school, it's because the kid is really bright and challenging, and they just don't know what to do with them. That's saying something about the insecurity of the Jewish community of Amsterdam more than Baruch Spinoza, who was already in Leiden. We know this from just his enlightenment, that he was really being recognized around the world. And so I want to turn it back to the personal, though, but I do think, and again, for your Rosh Hashanah and for this time, if you feel that you have, either you or feel someone feels excommunicated from your life, from your world, from your family, take them back. Or even take him ad. Just get to the door. It's been a long time. It's been too long. You know, I was just talking to Moses today, and Moses said, I'm supposed to go out to the furthest out. And I say to anybody, and by the way, Kol Nidre, we are allowed to pray im ha'avaryanim, we are allowed to pray with our apostates, our sinners. This was perhaps about the Marranos in the 15th century or even before, in the Byzantine period, of those that were apostates. So I think directly to that. But at the same time, I think he's really talking to each and every one of us, from the water carrier to the prince, which is a way to say from your janitor to the president of your community, immediate, past, or otherwise. It was a nice line here. There's a sight line.
So, but when all is said and done, I guess you're asking me to talk. When all is said and done, it's the individual standing at the gate that has to search his or her heart and go in, because otherwise the gate won't open.
So 2 things. 1, it's never all said and done. It's never the end of the day. And 2, we're going to see in a couple lines, it's not about the gate. It's about the field. It's about Eretz. It's about the land of experience, living it here, this edge of Hashamayim. So, you know, I say to myself, the Luftmensch, the guy in the clouds, get out of the clouds, get into the ground, get into the field, see where the people are. That's the field of experience. And this is when God will return to you, El Haaretz. This is the land, this is from Aviva Zornberg. She translates Eretz not as land, but as field, like a field of experience. And I really appreciate that, because Eretz Yisrael is a state of mind as well as a state. But this is not a political reality. This is, Eretz Yisrael is a field of experience that I am rooted, I am connected, and I am continuing to gather my people, Kihilat Yisrael included. Yeah.
I'm struck by the fact that although it says get to the gate, there's no roadmap. And the question is, okay, how?
Then I think you got to look back. Well, you could either look forward to the rabbis and their debates, or you look back in Deuteronomy, which is a retelling of the story of Exodus and the story of these commandments, which is both a theophany, a religious experience of God, but an interpersonal one as well, down to Mishpatim, which has really arcane and detailed rules about how we negotiate with one another and create a divine space. So this is Kol HaMitzvah, we're going to get to in a moment. That's all, the whole mitzvah. But what's the whole mitzvah? That's really the debate, and I think Moses is rooting it in the field of experience. And so this promise that you will be returned, Ve'ivacha Adonai Elohecha, to this field of experience, Asher Yorshu Avotecha, that your ancestors inherited. What's strange about that? If we take this literally, it's Moses to the children of Israel. Well, I guess Abraham did inherit it. He was on that land. It just took a long time. So that's literally to the first. Verishta vehitivcha vehirbecha ve'avotecha. That you will possess it, and you will be more prosperous and more numerous than your ancestors.
Wasn't this written in exile?
So
doesn't that relate to this as well, that it was written at the time of Josiah?
Yes. So that's much later. We're
Right.
maybe 8th century before the
Whatever.
Common Era.
Right.
And yet, so I think the irony is not lost on Moses himself, that's standing out on the other side. Mm-hmm. So too, the great redactor, be it Ezra or be it a number of real heroes of Israel, are looking back to this land. If only we did X, Y, and Z. And so rather than saying, let's take, ironically, what was it in Babylonia, that first exile took the elite and left the rest of the dreck down in Israel. The elite went to Babylon. What this is saying is, look at the dreck of your society. If you bring them closer to God, if you bring them closer to the land, then we all will return. Very different read. Yes?
We're being told here as well to reach out to the outcast, aren't we?
Absolutely. And from there, I will take you. And then you're going to be more prosperous than even you think you are right now in your goodness and isolation. Now, these are also children who are nervous and they're about to, this is the, what was the win one for the Gipper speech? I mean, this is really, he's in his throes. You can almost imagine, I do imagine very directly, what he is imprinting upon you. So, verse 6. Say, oh, come on, translators. Then your God, Adonai, will open up your hearts and the hearts of your offspring. Now let me read the Hebrew. Umal Adonai Elohecha et levavcha ve'et levav zarecha. What is Mila? What is Mal? What's a Mila? What's Brit Milah? You can say it, it's okay. A Brit Milah is a... At the 8 days, it's a... You can say the C word. It's okay. Circumcision. It says, I will circumcise. Umal Adonai, I will circumcise your heart. Now remember, I know you learned with Rabbi Amy a few weeks ago. Yes, there was a study sheet about. What was the line back a few weeks ago about this? Moses asked the children to cut around. Moses asked the children to cut around their hearts, to open the sensitivity, or to be more intellectually malleable than their stiff-neckedness. So I'm giving again, this was blessing and curse a few weeks ago in two separate things. There, God was commanding you to open up your heart, and here, commanding you to open up your heart, and here, Umal Adonai Elohecha levavcha. And now God will imprint this on your mind and heart. What's the difference? I just, it's subtle, but I think it's important. One is saying, please try to uncover your roots, to be exposed, and then you'll be transformed. Here it's saying, if you begin to do the work, if you begin to turn, that's not going to be the final imprint. You begin to do the work, God will do the imprinting. You don't worry about your seal. This is for me very important. What's that mean? On Rosh Hashanah it's written, and on Yom Kippur it's sealed. What's the seal? Stamp. This is the stamp. Wax, well, either wax or cuneiform clay, but you do the work, God will make the seal. I respectfully disagree about people who are spending their lives trying to write their epitaphs. You don't get to write the epitaph. God made you. You do the work. Let God tell you what that seal is going to be. And what's so powerful here is for you and your children. You're doing this work. Don't tell them so much what God has demanded from them. God demands them to go to school. God demands from them, your children, to do what they need to do. God will put that seal on.
So, Micah, if we believe as Reconstructionists that there is a spark of divinity in every human being,
yes,
the gates are really in us, not outside.
Lo b'shamayim hi. We're going to read that in a few lines. Not in the heavens. Not in the heavens. And that's why I think it says, add to this point. You could be looking up.
It's right here.
No. Very true. Beautiful speech. Leman chayecha. For you and your children, for the sake of life. For the sake that you live. It's also a beautiful expression of not sacrifice to the extent of giving yourself up, but for the sake of healthy living. And this is like, this is to the Puritan side of some of us, myself included, no sugar, no caffeine, no scotch. God, it's been a long time. I'm going through. It's a process. So, we are not supposed to abstain from all of these things so that we are monk-like in our living. We're supposed to be living the most active lives for the sake of life. And that is why you will see, if you take a step back, so take a step back, reach as far as you can to heaven, but don't try to broach heaven. Reach as far out as you can to the furthest extremities of your alienation and bring it back in. And then try to live a healthy life for the sake of your life. Then God will inflict curses upon al oivecha va'al son'echa asher yidfucha. All your ois and all your hates that pursue you. Now again, literally, it is talking about your enemies. Spiritually, it's talking about your demons. You open up your heart, you begin to do this stuff. If you have true sake for the sense of life, don't worry about, I'm coming back. That struggle, you stick on this kind of turn, God will return back. Let God worry about all the other and the ois and the sonechas that are ridfucha, chasing after you. The barbarians at the gate. But I think it's an internal. Yes?
Is implicit in this that God will help you get to the gate? That if you make a commitment to get there, God will bring you strength to do that.
Not just, yeah, and I want to challenge us to get there. Because that's the irony. Is there a there? Getting there, yes. Shamata b'kolo. What's the irony? Listen to the voice. What's the voice? Still, small. What's the there? Oh, if I only move to Aruba, oh my gosh, then in Aruba I'll be... That's the ad. It's an internal turn. It's a turning back to you. I've never been to Aruba. I don't know. I'm sure maybe rains these days. There. Oh, yes, white sands. I've seen it in the museum. So, to get there. This is kind of... he's almost contradicting his earlier speech, as I said before, about this promised land that you'll receive, flowing milk and honey. Do the work. Do the work. That in itself will be its reward. And if you're looking for the external blessings, it's about your children rather than, this land flowing with milk and honey, which is also part of the promise. I don't want to underestimate that. But that the spiritual fruits, I think, are internal. V'oridcha Adonai Elohecha b'chol ma'aseh yadecha pri vitna u'pri behemtecha. You see, and God will grant you prosperity in your undertakings, an issue from your womb, an offspring from the cattle, and produce from the soil. But it is not one that simply I'm being a good faith Israelite, and therefore God is going, ba-ding. Do the work. Be diligent. Invest in this world, and that world will ultimately yield more fruits than mere pieties. I know there's a bit of a radical read, so stay with me. Ki tishma b'kol Adonai. I'm on verse 10 now. Because you hear in the voice of God. What's the irony there? Has he said, and God will tell you? I mean, how different is this than Exodus? And God spoke. And God spoke to Moses, and God spoke to Moses, and God spoke to Israel. Here, the call is a different call. It's an internal one. You turn to yourself, you listen deeply, and that is listening to the voice of God. And then what is listening to the voice of God? Lishmor mitzvotav. So when you say, what are the rules? We know the rules. Implicit, explicit. Vechukotav haktuva b'sefer haTorah hazeh. This alludes to your moment of biblical criticism. He's pointing to a book. He's pointing to the Sefer, this book of Torah. So, was this already redacted? Was this Encyclopedia Britannica? Was it being written as we are written? I mean, back to Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur. The book's still being written. Your book is still being written. And there's more and more chapters to come while it's being written, but there's also a scroll that is complete and whole, just as it is. Yes?
Micah, help me understand something. Is the concept that you can live a normal, healthy, good life, it sounds like that's not enough, that God wants you every day to make an effort to get better. Is that how I'm supposed to read this? It's not enough just to be a good guy. You got to keep moving in order for God to recognize that you're leading a better life.
It's not enough to be a good enough guy. Sorry, Winnicott. Anybody? The psychologist David Winnicott. The good enough parent. If right now, in this moment of Israel's experience, and in this moment before Rosh Hashanah, you're like, you know what, I'm fine, good enough. No, that's not enough. B'chol levavcha, b'chol nafshecha. So I'll return just to
So
keep
returning means constancy.
working on it, working on
all
it
the time,
every
working
day.
on it.
Well, that's also because we're always going backwards. As
I'm
well
not
as
sure I
forwards.
read that.
We
I
don't
don't
like
know
get to one
backwards.
place.
We're turning.
Right, right.
So this is the Baal Shem Tov is one of my favorite ones these days. You should bend, but don't bend too much. Or my favorite from Annie Hall. If it bends, it's funny. If it breaks, it's not funny. If you're working, good. If you're beating yourself up, not good. Because what does it mean? What does that really mean? Have you done your best?
This could drive you crazy.
That's why I want to say, all your oils and all your hatreds that pursue me, that's what's pursuing me. You didn't do it. Did you prepare enough for this? You only read 3 commentaries. You didn't read that 4th commentary. You know Bert's going to ask about it, so why didn't you?
Can you see the circumstances of someone in a frail mental state, say, punishing themselves?
It's enough.
because they're
Begin. Just begin. Then read the first 2 lines. That's enough for you and your children.
But does it say that?
Yes.
It doesn't say that.
Odd. I didn't make it. I'm not even close. And the closer that I get, as we know, the further I seem. It seems to be even further away the closer I get. But if I don't believe in the there, I'm reaching that field of experience. That's where love comes. And
So Bert's always going back. Bert's always failing.
No, that's not what I meant.
No.
That's not what I meant. It's there's not a nirvana here. You don't get to a place and there's nothing else to do. You're always. That's why we have Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur every year.
Every year.
Because we don't always hit the target.
But we never really get there. It's the process of getting there.
Or we get there, there's a moment of yay, and then the ceiling becomes a floor, and we do it all over
It
again.
doesn't sound like we ever really get there.
But that's from Moses' voice. That's Moses' voice looking out. He's not going to arrive there. And that's from maybe historically our Israelites looking at Israel. We were there for a flash, and then all of a sudden in the exile we're back in Babylon. Very successful, but a distance from ourselves. So yes, it's a push-pull.
Bert, just try.
That's the field of experience is Israel. You can be Israel wherever you are. That's Jeremiah and Israel. Yes?
I was thinking the same thing as Mark. We are there. We might not like it all the time, but we're there. And in that, there's an opening.
And I think, for me, this twisting and turning, this constant turn and return, if you don't have this kind of stable center of breath that's flowing through, that'll be our meditation today. The shofar is only as good as its consistent breath within it. It feels like broken, it feels like these stops and starts, but truly it is one continual breath from the very beginning, from that promise, but we've got to push, but not push too far. And this is why don't worry about the stamp so much. Don't worry about that promised land that you're supposed to be at, that destination. Begin to turn. Veshuva alai, you return to me, v'nashuva alechem, and we will return to you. This constant reinforcement.
So just engage and you'll be rewarded.
With all your heart and soul.
Yeah. Just a couple of examples.
Please.
We keep going, we never get there. We always get halfway there. You know, at the end it's very close. Same thing on the normal curve.
That's correct.
Just the baseline. There's always a faster gun in the West. And so we keep trying, and the trying is the goal, is what this is about. But to reach some place is, we can't reach it.
I was at a mountain village in Japan, and this one man, he had made 72 different kimono. And, you know, his kimono process was so detailed and complicated between its dyeing and threads and staining. But he had envisioned the entire universe through kimono, and he only made maybe 40 of them, but it took him 40 years of his life. But he had the absolute vision of exactly where all these kimonos would be in this range of color, and it was absolutely inspirational. To say, I know what this mural was going to be. I know what this grand vision was. And if you begin in that journey, the rest, I know where this shofar ends up. It ends up in heaven, in the largest swirl at all. But as long as we have this beginning of turning, that's the promise. That's the promise. So like, I want to hope, you know where I'm going with this, right? And I can see it, I feel it. There's this inspiration. Did I finish the sentence? It's a long semicolon. Yeah.
So, you know, it seems to me, in using the shofar, it's about being awake to the present moment of your life. And then you begin this journey. So it says here, circumcise your heart, open yourself up, feel what's going on. So I think your radical reading this morning is really a challenge to all of us to wake up, do the work, and be a better person.
B'chol levavcha u'v'chol nafshecha is the last words of verse 10. With all of your faculties. And as you know, earlier in the Shema, earlier in Deuteronomy, it's b'chol levavcha u'v'chol nafshecha u'v'chol me'odecha, with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your might. Interesting here, it doesn't use me'odecha. Why do you think? Perhaps. And don't be so, me'odecha, force, kind of physical ability, or as the rabbis say, mamoncha, money. I think it's a spiritual hint.
Right.
It's not a physical action.
Right. It's reinforcing your interpretation.
Perhaps. But this is so beautiful here. I just want to read it in Hebrew and then in English. Ki ha-mitzvah hazot, this mitzvah, this instruction, asher anochi mitzavcha hayom, that I give you today, no lo niflet hi mimcha. This is not a miraculous thing from you. Velo rechoka hi. It's not far. What's the irony? You've got to reach out to the edge, but that's not too far for you. So this, talk about Jewish guilt. Don't worry, just change the world. It's not too much. But what it's also saying is it's not a miracle. I'm not praying for a miracle. I'm doing doing the work. Doing the things that are necessary, but it is lo b'shamayim hi, not in the heavens.
Is there a place where Moses said, and by the way, if you don't get to the gate, it's okay as long as you do the work? Does he say to us, you haven't failed because you're not perfect?
I know Judaism does not require perfection.
But I think that's it. V'shavta ad Adonai Elohecha. You just have to get to the point, up to. That's saying you're not getting there. That's enough.
I'm not sure, Bert. I mean, if it says you do the work, you get to the gates.
But the gates don't have a specific...
Are the gates perfection here?
No. Lo b'shamayim hi. We're not looking for the miraculous perfection. I'm not looking for immaculate. I'm certainly not looking for immaculate. Lo b'shamayim hi. It's not in the heavens. Lemor, saying, Mi ya'aleh lanu hashmayma. You see, it's right there in the text. Nice job, David. Who among us can go to the heavens? Who can? And get it for us and impart it to us. Now, what's the irony of that?
Moses got it from God in the heavens.
That's exactly what Moses did. Now, that's wisdom.
I guess the answer to this question is Moses.
And that's such humility. You know what? My epiphany was just a lot of hard work. No, I'm not being cynical about this. It's inspirational and it's profound. That what happened up there is right here. Lo b'shamayim hi. And I also want to say, and this is the challenge because I don't think it's explicit in the text, it's not there on that strip of beautiful Israel either. God bless Israel, may it always be protected and saved. But that's not my goal in life as a Jew, even as a person of Israel. I want to inhabit the righteous values, kol ha-mitzvah, where I'm at, and then I can be in the spirit and that field of experience.
This is saying what you said before. It's not like if I were only in such and such a place, it would be okay. Because you're about to get to it.
They're there.
It's here now.
Lo ma'ever layam. It's not on the other side of the ocean. I mean, it couldn't be more explicit. Now, layam hi, just remember, he's talking to the Israelites. And he may be talking as the historical side. Guys, we're in Babylonia. We've created rabbinic Judaism. We've created this beginnings of, not rabbinic yet, but we've created a canon of Bible. It's not over there on the other side of the sea. Mi yavor lanu. Who's going to take us over that sea? V'ikechecha lanu. Who among us and can get there and impart to us so that we can do it? No. Ki karov elecha hadavar. It's so close. It's so close to you. Yeah, how close? It's in you.
And still you'll never be a fraud.
Yeah, right. Bepicha ulivavecha la'asoto. So there's the irony, David. Is it too far from you? No, it's right in you. Now that it's in you, you better do everything in your power to manifest, to discover rather than invent. Or certainly wait.
So I don't need to go to a shrink if I didn't achieve everything that...
No, I think you still may. I mean, I don't know, but I've said this before. God is the great Rogerian. It's not giving you commandment. It's saying, tell me more about that. Where are you at? And investigate that.
The translation mouth?
Bepicha.
Not lips?
In your bepicha. It's something you can iterate. It's iterative. This is more than just a meditative experience. It's something you dwell on, but bepicha, it's close to you. You can taste it. You can feel it. You can do it. What a speech. Bepicha uvilvavecha la'asoto. And it says to observe it. Le'oseh. Do it. There is an action here. What's the irony? The action is a very internal process. But how far are we from the Midianites, the Jebusites, the Hittites? Will they? Won't they? Who's in, Honduras and why is... No. Where are we alienated? Both from without, with him. Re'eh. Now, this is a clear reference back to Re'eh. What was the Parshat Re'eh that we did a few weeks ago? Re'eh. Natati lechem bracha v'klala. I have given before you blessings and curse. Now what he says. Re'eh natati lifnechem hayom chayim v'etatov v'etamavet v'etara'ah. Not blessing and curse, life and death. And this is why I want to say clearly, mot yumat, they will be certainly put to death, does not mean put to death. You will be deadened. You'll be wasted. That's choosing life within life is the whole ticket. Not the whole, but that's the whole mitzvah, yes. The ticket, mitzvah hazov. Ticket, maybe mitzvah is tick, no, it's too much. Asher anochi mitzavcha hayom lahava et Adonai Elohecha. You've got to love God, lalechet bidrachav, lishmor mitzvotav. Walk in these ways. Keep these understandings, these rules and their commands. Vayiti v'ravita uverechacha Adonai Elohecha ba'aretz. So that you can do these things, so that God will give you the land, kiva shama l'rishta, that you will go there to inherit and possess. Ve'im yifnei levavecha. And if you turn away, now notice, there's shuv and yifneh. Shuv is a return. This is yifneh. This is if you turn away. If you turn away. Now this I would say, no, David, you cannot say good enough. I prefer not. Bartleby, right, the Scribner. I prefer not. If you turn away and you stop listening and you Heisman and you nidacha and you push out, see, v'hishtachavita le'elohim acherim ve'avatcham. This is talking about idolatry, but I will make a bigger claim. What is idolatry? Turning away from yourself. That's idolatry. You're not listening with all your heart and soul. So I'll challenge you, yes. Is it enough? If you say it's enough, it's not enough. If God says it's enough, it's more than enough. What else can I do? I made the sandwiches. I got the juice boxes. What else can I do? It's okay, Micah. They've got 3 different types of fruit. It's fine. Whatever. There's cold pizza. Figure it out. That's idolatry. I'm just trying to be very explicit that it's not b'shamayim hi. It's not some like, woo. All right. V'higadati lechem hayom. And I declare for you this day, you will certainly be lost. Remember, avod ta'avedun. Avod, it says perish. But avadati. You'll be lost. Clueless. What's the opposite of lost? Found. Find yourself. Shuv. Return. You will not long endure on the soil. Lo ta'arichu yamim ala adama asher ata over et hayarden lavo shama l'rishta. I'm going to challenge this line because he just said it's not far, it's not on the other side of the sea. And then he just said, you're not going to last very long. On over there, shama that you're going to inherit. And maybe in Bavel, this is the historical line, is maybe in Babylonia they're saying, you know what, we got more work to do. We're not ready yet. And the irony is, you're not ready yet. I mean, this is actually a lot of ultra-Orthodoxy in the state of Israel. They says, we're not ready yet. We still need Mashiach to come. You can't declare it yourself. I disagree with that too.
I hope so.
So powerful. I call heaven and earth today. God, Moses, Heodit ha'idoti v'chem hayom et hashamayim ve'et ha'aretz ha'chayim v'ha'mavet natati lifnechem ha'bracha v'ha'klala u'v'achart b'chayim l'man tchiyeh et zarecha. I call heaven and earth to witness to you this day. Remember, 2 chapters ago, you had 6 tribes and 6 tribes blessing and cursing one another. Remember, the altar was down below in Shechem. They were up on Gerizim and Eval. Here, Moses is standing talking to the people and saying, I'm calling them to witness my words today. This is the life. This is the blessing. This is the curse. You have it before you. Choose life. Bacharta b'chayim. Leman tichye ata v'zarecha. It seems redundant. Choose life so you can live. But it's not ironic. Because you can choose not life and turn away and be living and be not living. Lavat Adonai. And this is, I think, what love is. It's this willingness to be open to the fullest experience of life, to turn towards one another, to turn to yourself. And this is what it means to love God. Lishmoa b'kola. What does it mean? Ledov kabo. To attach, to stick to God. Devek. It's not in the heavens. So where am I going to find it? I'm going to find it in community. I'm going to find it in my children. I'm going to find it in myself when I love. Ki hu chayecha v'orech yamecha. Because that love is your life and the depth of your days. Lashevet al ha'adama. To truly be settled in this world, that I have sworn to you and to your ancestors, Abraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov, and let's add here, Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, and Leah, Latet lachem.